Our parties like EFF and ANC, they can't say nothing bad about illegal foreigners because they are taking money from illegal foreigners. They are being funded by illegal foreigners. Our children don't have jobs. Every restaurant in South Africa are hiring Zimbabweans, are hiring Mozambicans, are hiring all these illegal foreigners. There was a time when I felt people like Dudula, they are being inhumane, until the Dudulas of this world invited me to come to the ground and see the circumstances of our people. And because I was faced with facts, I had to turn and say illegal foreigners are the biggest cancer in our country.
Now, one of Gayton Mckenzie's most interesting policies is that he argues that whenever any South African signs a form in South Africa, there will be no reason to choose either your race. So there will be nothing like a white, black, Indian, or whatever. All that will be needed is just South African. But the focus would be against illegal foreigners. So if you're an illegal foreigner in South Africa, you better start getting your things ready to be kicked out if Gayton Mckenzie gets into power. Let's listen to what he has to say about the impact of illegal foreigners in South Africa, and I'll be back for some interesting analysis.
So I want to make two things very clear here today, because our enemies are using their media friends to tell these two lies. So here and now, I want to stop that lies, so you hear from the president of the Patriotic Alliance what is our position with those two lies. I want to tell you the lie number one. They are saying that we are a colored party. We are a party only for colored people. We are here today to come and tell them that we are the only party in South Africa that has all nationalities in the NEC. We are the only party in South Africa that has different races as premier candidates. So we are here to tell them, don't lie about us. We are not a colored party. We are a colorful party. The second lie, I can tell you here today that the DA and the ANC had a meeting where they were discussing how they're going to work together to keep other parties out of power. So the DA can't even get themselves to say they will not work with the ANC. They are telling people that the Patriotic Alliance has a deal with the ANC. I'm standing here today to tell you there's no deal between the PA and the ANC. I also want to be honest with you at all times. We have been approached. We've been offered ministerial post. And we said, the day you see me becoming a minister without winning an election is the day you must know I sold you out. I will never become a minister. I will never take a post from the ANC without winning elections. We shall not betray the cause. I would like to say, many people accuse me, they accuse the Patriotic Alliance of being a party with a single issue. They say we are a single issue party. They say we are Abahambe party. That's our only thing we know. What they don't understand is what I'm going to explain here today. That South Africa has a crime problem. South Africa has a health problem. South Africa has an electricity problem. South Africa has a joblessness problem. South Africa has an addiction to drugs problem. And the people that is on the forefront of all those problems are illegal foreigners in this country. I would like to tell you a story. We had our rally in Etlon, and we bought thousands and thousands of loaves of bread. And they sent these guys to deliver the bread. And we said to them, you guys, you must join the PA. And they said, no, we are going to vote for the PA. Because you guys, you talk about Abahambe. The foreigners are a problem. Less than 24 hours after the very 3 guys that were sent to Etlon, the very 3 ones were shot dead by an illegal foreigner. We are in contact with SASCO. We are in contact with the family to help them. Now, it was too late for them. They wanted foreigners gone. And the very same foreigners they wanted gone were the ones that killed them. But I'm promising you today, we are not going to wait for foreigners to keep on killing South Africans. We are not going to wait for foreigners to keep on giving drugs to our children. We are not going to give our foreigners to get RDP houses. We are not going to wait for foreigners to get pensions here. We are not going to wait for foreigners to come here and jump our borders. We are going to stand up. We are going to stand up today. We are going to make a vow here today on this stage that we are going to make sure we remove them from our country with immediate effect. You see, there's many people that talks, oh, it's inhumane what you guys are doing. Yeah, for you it's inhumane because you've got medical aid. You don't stand in lines that is full of foreigners to get medical attention. You have medical aid, so you must just shut up and wait, let the people fight for what is busy happening in their lives. Our children don't have jobs. Every restaurant in South Africa are hiring Zimbabweans, are hiring Mozambicans, are hiring all these illegal foreigners. When, you know, they say a wise man knows he knows little. A wise man understands that he doesn't know everything. A fool thinks he knows everything. There was a time when I felt people like Dudula, they are being inhumane, until the Dudulas of this world invited me to come to the ground and see the circumstances of our people. And because I was faced with facts, I had to turn and say, illegal foreigners are the biggest cancer in our country. Now, how does removing illegal foreigners, how does that help us? Number one, we have 15 million illegal foreigners here. 8 million of them has jobs. The other 6 million are criminals. So when they leave, there's already 8 million jobs for our children to start immediately. Our people don't have houses. They stay in squatter camps while they have hijacked buildings in Sunnyside, in Hillbrow. You go to Belleville Station in Cape Town. They have nationalized Belleville. It belongs to them. Hillbrow belongs to them. Ronzettenville belongs to them. Sunnyside belongs to them. But I'm saying to you, by Thursday, it will belong to us. We'll take it back by fire. You must never listen to lies. You see, he who pays you controls you. He who pays you controls you. I want to say to you today, our parties like EFF and ANC, they can't say nothing bad about illegal foreigners because they are taking money from illegal foreigners. They are being funded by illegal foreigners.
Yeah, so what do you think? Really interesting speech. I think it's, you know, one way I really would like to analyze this video is by a research done on the BBC, actually, on why South Africa regrets its post-apartheid asylum laws. And we know that Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi actually has spoken that the open borders should be blamed, the blame for the open borders in South Africa should be taken back to Mandela. In 1994, when Mandela was trying to vie for the rainbow nation, for a rainbow consciousness in South Africa, he actually also wanted to have this Africa-wide consciousness of rainbowism, as Kwame Nkrumah did in 1956, where he thought that, all Africa should start thinking in the same way and all Africa should be one, there should be no borders. And Dr. Aaron speaks about how Dr. Nelson Mandela actually drove the initiative to kick down the borders in South Africa and allow an open border kind of like strategy in South Africa, through which also the asylum laws that in 1994, many of the ANC members didn't read carefully before they signed the asylum laws at the level of the UN policy on migration. So all of that actually kind of like influenced South Africa's position in terms of its policy on asylum and all that. And now this report, I think is a really interesting report, says that why it's trying to analyze why South Africa regrets its post-apartheid asylum laws. So it says that with xenophobia rising in South Africa, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi has actually announced plans to tighten asylum and immigration laws in South Africa. And it's a move that would have far-reaching consequences. So although now that the ANC might be losing its majority, we'll see how it goes. But let's understand where South Africa was placed in terms of its illegal migration, so that when the DA or whichever party comes into power, or even a coalition, we understand how to start analyzing the issue of illegal migration in South Africa, right? So Dr. Aaron's proposal, Home Office actually, the proposals contained in a document called the White Paper, which has been released for public discussion, as a first step towards adopting legislation. It says that it's kind of like marked a break with the more embracing policy that the government championed after it took power at the end of the racist system of apartheid in 1994. So it says that South Africa had been a pariah state during apartheid, and as the ANC led its integration into the world, it opened up the country to immigrants and asylum seekers, with many coming from other parts of Africa and Asia. And so the ANC government also did this in the interest of the Pan-African and international solidarity, because of the support it received from other countries during its struggle against apartheid. So the whole asylum laws, the acceding to asylum laws at the time, was kind of like a way of message of solidarity to the world, especially for its support in joining the ANC's fight against apartheid in South Africa. But anyway, ever since that time, the political and economic dynamics have changed considerably, which explains the shift in government thinking. So it says that Dr. Motsoaledi is pushing for people to seek asylum in the first safe country they enter, meaning that they could be denied asylum if they came via other countries. And that his proposal, now this proposal by Dr. Aaron, is the fact that, any first safe country any asylum seeker enters, they should actually seek their asylum there, and they could be denied. So if an asylum seeker arrives the first safe country, probably like in Kenya, for example, it could also be denied asylum in South Africa, because South Africa is not its first safe country, okay? And this analysis says that this proposal would mostly affect those from African nations, as they form the bulk of refugees and asylum seekers fleeing conflict and persecution. Now, according to the United Nations, about 250,000 refugees and asylum seekers live in South Africa. 250,000 refugees and asylum seekers presently live in South Africa. And they are separate from documented or undocumented foreign nationals in the country for other reasons, including those seeking better and economic opportunities. You see. Now, in a paper published in 2021, an academic at South Africa's University of the Free State actually said that 25% of the refugees and asylum seekers came from Ethiopia. 25% from Ethiopia, 23% from Congo, from the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, that's having a lot of brawl right now with Rwanda at the moment, And actually, there was a coup recently, an attempted coup against the president of the DRC at the moment, right? Felix Tshisekedi. And 23% of the refugees at the moment in South Africa actually are from the DRC. While 11% is from Somalia, we know from the Ogaden War, Somalia has been under crisis, the large refugee crisis, and it seems to be getting worse and worse by the day. Now, there's also 10% of refugees from Bangladesh, and also 6% from Robert Mugabe's Zimbabwe. All right, so this is the data on the amount of refugees living in South Africa at the moment. So it's 25% from Ethiopia, 23% from the DRC, 11% from Somalia, 10% from Bangladesh, and then 6% from Zimbabwe. Now, this academic also says that the number of refugees and asylum seekers may be small, but it feeds into the deeper hostility towards foreigners, where population has increased over the last 3 decades, while South Africa's unemployment rate has soared to around 32%. So, although these refugees, there are 250,000 of them, present in South Africa. It might be small, but, it's part of the reasons why South Africans are so angry with illegal immigration, illegal foreigners, and why xenophobia seems to be on the rise. So the refugee system, which actually was based on laws, is actually feeding into the South Africa's hatred for illegal foreigners, okay? Now, the research also says that immigrants, especially Somalis and Bangladeshis, are seen to be controlling the economy of townships and are accused of taking the jobs of locals. It has led to attacks on migrants and the emergence of anti-migrant groups like the Operation Dudula. And the Operation Dudula is in close relationship right now with Gayton Mckenzie's Patriotic Alliance. So, because of this, the academic says that Dr. Motsoaledi was looking to next year's election, that's this election going on, where he would unveil his proposals. Now, some of the opposition parties, he argues, are likely to make migration a major campaign issue. The ANC fears losing support and wants to be seen as doing something about the whole illegal immigration. He also said that the government party's focus, the ANC's focus on migration also helps to deflect attention from its failures in improving the economy and services. Now, in June of 2023, the ANC official Fikile Mbalule actually described the undocumented immigrants in South Africa as a ticking time bomb for South Africa. So he says that illegal immigrants put a heavy strain on the fiscus with adverse effects on service delivery, the overstretched health sector, high unemployment, and poverty. You see. So South Africa's last census recorded more than 2.4 million illegal foreigners last year, with the highest percentage coming from neighboring Zimbabwe at 45.5%, followed by Mozambique and then Lesotho. So 45.5% of Zimbabweans were actually recorded in the last census, right? And these were the number of migrants as at last year, followed by Mozambique and then from Lesotho. And these are the people Gayton Mckenzie's Patriotic Alliance Party argues actually is taking all the jobs from South Africans. So it's difficult to get into a restaurant today and see an employed South African, but rather you see more Zims and more Malawians and maybe Mozambicans and Lesothians, okay? So they argue that, the research argues that, the migrants actually make up 3% of the total population of 62 million, though officials acknowledge the difficulty in counting foreign nationals, especially those who are undocumented. But for Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, it is clear that no one can account for all undocumented migrants in South Africa. And he says that the government is really trying to deal with them. That immigration services deport between 15,000 to 20,000 illegal foreigners every year at a huge cost. And that number is on the rise, pointing out that the government was setting out a new law enforcement agency known as the Border Management Authority, BMA, to significantly reduce the risk of foreigners entering the country illegally. And for Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, he argues that this deportation of 20,000 migrants every year is actually done also at the cost of the taxpayer, because, in trying to deport 20,000 people who will be deported to different regions, they have to book separate flights and pay the pilots and all that. And it's also at the expense of the taxpayer. So Home Office is trying to find a different strategy to reduce those costs and to ensure that this deportation takes place, or even to avoid the deportation at all. So even though the Patriotic Alliance Party, PA party, would deport all foreigners, it would also be at the expense of the state's treasury, I would suspect. And then it might, at the long run anyway, be a safer one if the whole thing is done once and all illegal foreigners depart. But in trying to deport 20,000 every year, it's really tricky anyway. So I don't know how the PA Alliance, Gayton Mckenzie strategy would work out. But this has been Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi's challenge from the Home Office, all this while. Dr. Aaron also spoke about how, that new legislation must be introduced to strengthen the powers of immigration officers and inspectorate to make continuing training compulsory. He also said that the establishment of immigration courts and the current legislative framework was untenable and leads to long delays in finalizing immigration matters, including deportation. So also in this research anyway, the argument also says that if you arrest, the argument of the research says that it's difficult to clamp down on undocumented migrants, as most are from neighboring states, okay? So if you arrest and deport them, they may come back the following week. And you can't stop the movement of people, says this research, and it's better to create a mechanism to allow people to become documented, okay? And so this might be some of the weaknesses of the Gayton Mckenzie's PA party's deportation mandate. Although if walls are being built, because I remember I shared a video on this channel where the PA Patriotic Alliance members actually showed the nature of the border between South Africa and Zimbabwe, and it was just divided by the Limpopo River. So a lot of people from Zimbabwe use boats to get into South Africa, and Gayton Mckenzie argues that those boats are usually filled with illegal products, like cigarettes, and even he argued that some bombs, in a way, were usually transported from the Limpopo River, and that's how illegal foreigners have been transporting illegal goods into South Africa. But this research actually says that, that the movement of people cannot be stopped, and that even if you deport them today without building the wall which Gayton Mckenzie speaks about, that they might come back the next week. And that's really interesting perspective. That's a really interesting perspective. So he said the research argues that it might be better to have a mechanism to make people documented. So like I shared in the last video, the IFP wants to create this thing about a period, a negotiable period of, I think, 60 days or so, where illegal foreigners can actually strive to become documented, or they have planned to exit the country. Okay, this research actually argues that might be a more sustainable strategy. And then also, but anyway, that's it. So it says also that with the election going on at the moment, the ANC is unlikely to drop its plans, especially some opinion polls suggest that the ANC risks losing its outright majority in the parliament for the first time since 1994, as I shared in my last video, and that this is where the whole challenge with immigration lies, especially with Home Office and the policies of Gayton Mckenzie. So, how do we translate this? I remember I shared once in a video where I spoke about how, South Africa has two choices. It's either it remains the shining light in the region of South Africa, in the southern part of Africa, and because it has all the potentials to be the shining light, okay? And that shining light, a lot of Christians know this statement, that it says that a light set on a hill cannot be hidden. So as long as South Africa remains a shining light, it will definitely attract a lot of people to that light. But in that regard, it's either South Africa finds a mechanism to stop people from getting in to enjoy a little bit of that light, or find a way to manage the influx, the inevitable influx of people who want to partake of that light, you see. And so that's the nature, that's the struggle I think South Africa is facing at the moment. It's either that the PA, the Patriotic Alliance, would build a wall around the Limpopo River and actually around South Africa, protect South Africa, strengthen its border guards, strengthen its border security, and then that kick out all the illegal foreigners today in South Africa and make South Africa free, because Gayton Mckenzie argues that immediately you kick out the 6 million, I think, illegal foreigners which are living in South Africa at the moment, you immediately create 6 million jobs. And that fights, you know, the unemployment that's actually present in South Africa. So this is his perspective. So is it that South Africa eliminates all the illegal foreigners in that regard and build a wall to protect itself and then continue to become that beaming light of you know, in Africa, economy-wise and political-wise, or it finds a strategy to really absorb that manpower that is already existent, although illegally, in South Africa, and absorb that manpower to also contribute to the building of the excellence and the potential that South Africa already incubates, and have that as a trajectory to move forward into the future. So these are the two parts in my own thinking I think that South Africa might want to consider, rather than just a full-out deportation of all the manpower present right now in South Africa. But I don't know anyway. It's been a lot of information. It's been a lot of talk. Share your thoughts. Share your thoughts. We really want to hear from you guys. Share your thoughts in the comments.